Hey guys, how's it going? Kriparian here. So, Minion Necro was a pretty awesome choice to play in Season 6 of Diablo 4, and with Season 7 upon us, it is once again an excellent choice. I do have the build up on Mobalytics. I have updated it from the Season 6 version. There are not that many changes to the core of the build, but there are a lot of changes when it comes to actually playing it and interacting with the new Witchcraft powers, and we're going to see a lot more consistency coming up because, well, they finally fixed minions. The footage you're seeing is, I think, on day 3 or day 4 of Season 6, and you can kind of see how the build plays overall. They made it so the Ring of Mendeln proc actually counts your minion modifiers for damage, which allows it to do tremendous damage. I'm using the Bone Golem instead of the Blood Golem because while the Blood Golem does more damage per hit, the Bone Golem actually attacks 50% faster. They have their own attack speed animations, and it is very significant, in fact. I prefer the Bone Golem in this setup because it allows me to use the button to pop corpses, which allows me to send my Golem in exactly where the minions are going to be pulled in with the corpse tendrils. And this playstyle I found to be the absolute best for minions in Season 6, and it is a build not only that I played, that I highly recommended, and most of you played, and most of you came to those same conclusions. If you do want to experience a Minion Necromancer build and you want some certainty that there's not going to be any kind of wild cards, maybe some bugs kind of holding it back, this is your go-to choice. Probably in Season 7 I'll be playing Companion Druid, and you can find that build on my Mobalytics page as well. You can also find my builds on Path of Exile 2 and the Bazaar on Mobalytics as well, if you're curious. They've been very nice to cover all the different games that I've played. Now, when it comes to this build in particular, I have made a few updates, but the skills have actually stayed the same, even though a few of the skills have changed in terms of how they work. So the big thing in Season 7 is that all summon damage is player damage first, which means that every multiplier that did or didn't work before, it just works now. It also means that your minions have way higher lucky hit because it's using your lucky hit to proc stuff, so you're going to get far more Decrepify procs. Your cooldowns should go off a lot faster, which is pretty nice. Now, with that in mind, I'm still using the Soul Rift ult because it is quite nice to have like unlimited resource, as we're still using the Great Feast to drain it because it has just a really big multiplier. But overall, it might be better to use Army of the Dead in this setup. The Army of the Dead legendary power gives you a pretty sizable damage boost, and Army of the Dead, being a minion skill actually, is going to do very substantial damage. I can't say with certainty if Army of the Dead is better than Soul Rift, however, because Soul Rift also gives you a damage multiplier, and you don't have to use a legendary aspect for it. The main issue with Soul Rift is that sometimes those stacks would drop off and you wouldn't actually have the 30 damage multiplier. However, with the cooldowns resetting somewhat more frequently with the lucky hit procs from Decrepify, it does benefit Army of the Dead, but it also does benefit Soul Rift. So that is that. They don't have many changes in the Paragon or the skill tree for Necromancer since Season 6, but one of the big skills is Reaper's Pursuit. It now gives you movement speed and damage based on having a slotted Darkness skill on your bar. And remember, all your damage is minion damage because minion damage is now your damage. So that also affects my decision to use Soul Rift because I get 6% more damage on top of that, because I'd use that skill anyway because I want to use Blight for its 20 more damage taken to the target. The gear setup is effectively the same. The main difference is that you don't have to get any critical strike chance on your gear anymore. Beforehand, it wasn't really worth it that much because you'd have a pretty decent crit chance from Grasping Veins and a few other mechanics, and you could get a whole bunch of it on Air Perdition. Well, when you get the level 11, rank 11 ability on your Grow, your minions will have 100% crit chance if you've used an ultimate in the last 15 seconds. And with Soul Rift having the lowest cooldown of all Necromancer ultimates combined with more Decrepify procs, that should be all of the time. And if it is indeed all of the time, you should not use a critical strike chance stacked Air of Perdition and just fill in the gaps with something else. It's still good to get Lucky Hit. It's still good to get movement speed. It doesn't really matter too much because primarily you're using Air of Perdition for the 60 damage multiplier that it provides on a helmet. So that is pretty good. I imagine this will be a go-to item for most classes and builds next season. We're still using the Grandfather setup because there are no good weapon tempers. Typically, builds get a massive amount of power from their weapon tempers, but in this case we do not, because by far most of the damage comes from the Ring of Mendeln proc. The Ring of Mendeln proc does not count doing double damage or hitting twice through a temper or skill ability. It has to be how many attacks are initiated. Okay, so you just initiate 6 auto attacks and then it will proc. You cannot go around that, and that is why the Grandfather is the best weapon, because it's another 50 multiplier and it's on a two-hander ×2, and the stats are pretty good now on it. For the powers, you're going to use Vengeful Spirit, which counts as a minion, so you get the Kalan's Edict bonus for that. The Frog also counts as a minion. The Spirit will make you effectively invincible for 10 seconds every 15. 50 crit multi, which scales very well if you have 100% crit on your minions. The Aura of Siphoning will have you just constantly heal. Honestly, you can use whatever aura you want typically, but you have to be mindful that you might be using the Witchcraft gem, which requires 3 grow abilities, in which case you typically do have to satisfy that because it's a powerful gem. And Breath of the Coven gives you attack speed. Attack speed is going to be the main chase stat. You might hit the attack speed caps on your gear and from Breath of the Coven, and if you do, it will allow you to stack int on your character a lot more, which is a lot more damage, but also it will allow you to drop investment in resistances, which is very, very good. Overall, the build plays very similarly to last season, again with the exception that you really do want to be using your ultimate a lot more than you previously have. I really enjoyed playing this build in Season 6, and I know in Season 6 most people ended up playing Spiritborn, so if you are a minion enjoyer and you did your round of Spiritborn in Season 6, I do highly recommend this build. I do not think that this build is going to do like Pit Clear 150, but the Minion Necro is considered one of, if not the very best leveling builds in the game, but it's not just effective, it just feels good to play. So if you just want like a chill, easy time playing the game start to finish, you can probably do pit tiers around like 115 to 125 with this build, I would estimate. It's a ballpark estimate because we don't know exactly how powerful the Witchcraft powers will play a role, but that is very respectable. That is enough to comfortably clear all content on Torment 4, and it is enough to comfortably level all of your glyphs to max. The other little note that I have is for the runes. I do have the ideal runes here. They have not been fully updated on Mobalytics. There are a few new runes, while the payout runes you want to be the same ones, the Spirit Wolves, which now count as minions, so they're really good with Kalan's Edict. And the Warcry is even better now because minions are player damage, so the Warcry buffs the player, but then it buffs your allies. So now it double dips for minion builds. The best rune in the game and for minions is now twice as good. How about that? Now, the go-to combo for Ohm is with Nagu. So Nagu is a rune that gives you 100 offering every 5 seconds if you've controlled a minion alive throughout that time. And this goes up to 6. So basically every 5 seconds you get 600 offering, and it will have 100% uptime without you clicking any buttons on Warcry, which is absolutely crazy. For set, you can use the stand still, you can use the cooldown rune, but in my opinion, the best one is the new Agni rune, which gives you 25 offering when you use a skill, but it kind of like banks up a charge every 0.3 seconds. So if you're just casting a skill every few seconds, it's just going to give you like a huge amount of offering when you cast your first skill. And this works really well, because the way that it's going to work is you're going to kill a pack, you're going to move to the new pack, and then you're going to open up by pressing your golem button to spawn the corpses, and when you do that, it's going to spawn like 500 offering worth of wolves. Right? And they're just going to be there right away, right as combat starts. So it's one of those things where it just really works with the flow of the gameplay and how you use the skills on this character. I don't expect there to be too many changes other than perhaps the Witchcraft powers. The Witchcraft powers have very significant synergy, and that's pretty cool to see. And overall, I think start to finish, if you're just, a little bit out of touch with what's happening in Diablo and you want a build that is good, comfy, feels good to play, and strong at every single point in the game, this is the build that I recommend. And if you guys do want to check it out, make sure to check it out on Mobalytics in the link below. Thank you for watching.